Welcome, Solar here. I hope you guys are doing well. I am recording this on Sunday, February the 11th, which means we are 2 days out from the most recent new moon in Aquarius. I didn't get the opportunity to come on here and record a video for that particular new moon, so we will be looking into that as I give you your Tarot Astrology Ascension report. Normally I would focus only on that, but because it's 2 days later and we've got some things happening this week, I'm going to delve a little bit into what the messages are that I'm receiving for those things also. And those two events, astrological events, I kind of want to look at this week are Mars entering into Aquarius on Tuesday, which is the day of Mars, and then Venus entering Aquarius on Friday, which is the day of Venus. And of course, when Mars enters into Aquarius at 0 degrees, it will be conjuncting Pluto, that is there at 0 degrees, and then when Venus moves into Aquarius on Friday at 0 degrees, it will also be conjuncting Pluto and also conjuncting Mars, which will be at the 2-degree mark. So we're going to talk a little bit about that too. We're not just going to look at the new moon in Aquarius, although the energies from the new moon, they're still cooking. You know, it's not something that when the event occurs, all of a sudden it's no longer relevant. That's not the way astrology works. That's not the way energy works. Let's put it that way. So even if you are catching this two days after the event, it doesn't really matter, because what I have to say about these energies are still pertinent as we move forward. Okay, so welcome if you are visiting for the first time. If you are not familiar with me and how I work, I am not a classically trained astrologer. I read astrology through the power of tarot, numerology, my basic knowledge on astrology, and channeling. And as such, I've created my own way of reading these energies that I call tarot astrology. Yes, so you know, you can vibe with me. If you're feeling what I'm sharing with you, then I welcome you to do the YouTube thing if you feel like it, to like, to share, to comment, to subscribe. Just so you know, I come on here every 2 weeks to do an ascension report around the lunations, the new and the full moons, and then sometimes if I have time in between, I will come on here, but I have not done that in a couple of months because it's been really fucking crazy. Okay, so welcome if you are returning. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all of your support across my platforms. Welcome if you're joining me from my other channel, Solar Speaks. Welcome if you're here from SUBSTACK. Thank you for being here. And not only on my channel, thank you for being here at this time. Okay, so I have the chart up for this past new moon, and we're going to get into some of these messages. So excuse me, if you've been vibing with me or you listened to my full moon in Leo Tarot Astrology Ascension report, or my new moon in Capricorn Tarot Astrology Ascension report, those would be the last two, yes, then you probably know that I've been speaking about this phenomenon that's happening, and it happens quite often every year, where the tone is set for the year ahead. And I'm not talking about the astrological year here, I'm talking about the year as we celebrate it on the Gregorian calendar, meaning January the 1st. Oftentimes there will be the first few moons of the new year will follow a pattern in degree. And what I mean by that is some of the new moons will be either on the same degree or a similar degree, and same with the full moons. And what we have going on this year is we have this these two numbers that keep showing up. I think up until the full moon in Libra is the last one, and then the new moon in Aries, it shifts. So what I mean by that is the first lunation of the year was the new moon in Capricorn, and that occurred at 20 degrees. Then we had the full moon in Cancer, and that occurred, the full moon in Cancer happened first. We had the new moon in Capricorn at the beginning of the year, 20 degrees. Then we had the full moon in Leo, 5 degrees. Now this past Friday, we had the new moon in Aquarius at 20 degrees. And the next full moon we have will be in Virgo, and it will be at 5 degrees. Then we'll have another new moon in Pisces at 20 degrees. And then we will have the first eclipse of 2024 in the sign of Libra, full moon in Libra at 5 degrees, and then will shift when the moon enters into Aries in its newness. It will go to, I think, 19 degrees. So we have, I think, a total of 6 moons. 3 new moons at the 20 degree mark and 3 full moons at the 5 degree mark. And I'm sending you guys so much love because that full moon in Leo was quite a doozy. You know, it brought up so much, and this is what these full moons are going to be like, guys, up until eclipse season. So be ready for the full moon in Virgo that's coming up. It's very, very, these moons are very intense because of what they're here to do right now. Hold on a second. Good. So these moons are dealing with our purging of the root energies that have created cycles that we call karmic cycles. Okay, so energy works almost like concentric circles within a circle, microcosm within a macrocosm, until you get down to the smallest energy, which is at the center. You could say the nucleus energy. And this is what we're dealing with now. We've been dealing with all of the external energies. We've been purging them in order to get to this point where we can get to the seed point of the energy, the nucleus of the energy, and we can deal with the clearance of it. And the thing about that is that when we come to the root of an energy, it helps us, well, what it can facilitate is the collapse of timelines. And when timelines are collapsing, what will occur is that all of the themes from those timelines that are collapsing will all of a sudden appear to become live in our lives. And things will feel like you're repeating them. And I will often say to you guys on both this channel and my channel Solara Speaks that an energy will often exit in the same way it enters, or it will exit showing you the signature pattern that it has been manifesting throughout the duration of the cycle. Okay, so what we are dealing with this year, and I spoke about this when I talked about the energies for 2024, the themes around this number 8. We're dealing with a crossover of ages, with the age of Pisces and the age of Aquarius, but we're also dealing with a crossover of golden ages. So what we're dealing with now is, because we've come to the nucleus of the energy, the root of the energy, we are dealing with many of the themes that ended the previous golden age, which was the golden age that we called the age of Leo. And now we're entering into the new golden age, which is in Leo's sister sign, which is the sign of Aquarius. And we can see this in the numerology of this year, for example, where, when you break down 2024, it breaks down to an 8, and the 2 major arcana cards in the tarot that represent this number 8 are the Strength card, which is a card of Leo, one of 2 cards of Leo. It's a card of Leo in the tarot that really deals more with woundedness and the things we must overcome by healing our hearts and accessing bravery, courage, and all of those higher, my trusty vibrational scale. We are here not to live in shame and fear, shame and guilt and apathy and grief and fear and desire and anger and pride. We're really here to live in love, joy, peace, and enlightenment. And these places we only visit for lessons to come back up, but we are supposed to be here the majority of the time. Now, because of the fuckery of the Matrix, we have been living below our value. We've been squeezed into living in these lower vibrational energies that had us trapped in cycles. And there's a whole bunch of ways that was done, right? On a frequential level, so many ways that was enacted. But now what we're doing is, as those restrictions are being loosened energetically, we are now challenged to deal with the programming that would keep us going forward and repeating those cycles unconsciously now, even though we're free to walk away. So these full moons at the beginning of this year are really, really pushing us to clear out the programming that would have us contract ourselves at this level to another karmic cycle when we are free. Okay, so this is why these energies are so intense, especially the last full moon. The full moon in Leo was very intense, especially for those of you who have fixed sign energy, a lot of fixed sign energy in your chart. Those of you who have a lot of Leo energy, have very, very full fifth houses, you may have really felt this very, very powerfully. And I was writing about this on Substack, and if you guys are not aware, even though I'm not on here very often, I do write on Substack. I will leave the information for my Substack account below so you can access it. I have both free and paying options. I'm sharing this because even if I don't come on here for 2 weeks, I still keep up to date with writing about the energies, speaking about the energies, sometimes podcasting. And so that's always available to you if you want to connect with me that way in the interim. YouTube can be a little bit cumbersome for me personally on an energetic level in all of this. It sometimes is easier for me to write than it is for me to show up and to do these videos because I'm a Leo sun. And I've got a lot of fixed sign. I love Scorpio energy also. So I am Aquarius energy. I'm an Aquarius moon. Okay, so I have a lot of fixed sign energy, and this full moon was intense for me. It was so intense that it manifested itself on the physical planes in very, very very, very prominent ways. Let's put it that way. And so every time I tried to come on here to do something, there were blocks. So it's easier for me when those things come up to write. So if you want to stay connected with me in that way, I'm consistent. I'm more consistent right now on Substack than I probably have been on YouTube, as much as I would like to push past those energies. Sometimes I'm also in a place where my guidance is not to fight these things anymore. I don't have to battle these things. You don't have to fight wars that you've already won. These energies are here to pass through. And while we are experiencing them, they are real. They are real. The shit is real. But at the same time, for as long as we don't buy into the old narratives that want to take us back into believing things about ourselves and our situations that would have us re-enter the cycle, as long as we're in a state of observation, as long as we're realizing that as timelines collapse, they have to play out in our realities, then we will not be falling prey to getting back into any kind of karmic cycles, including the karmic cycle of, because, at a certain point, it's time to surrender arms and trust in the work that you've done. And that doesn't mean you stop fighting altogether, but it means you're not as aggressive in the fight as you were before. And I've spoken about this on my other channel. For many of you, I've been called into being more in a state of surrender at this point, and letting the timelines collapse and to observe them and to trust in a lot of the work I've done and to enter back into that constant pushing against, fighting against energy would reintroduce a timeline that I've already graduated from. So just be aware, because we're all learning these lessons in different ways. We're learning how to go through a cycle, take the lesson that we're supposed to learn and not re-enter it. In other words, every cycle is purposeful, but it's not good to stay in a cycle past the point of graduation. Okay, so a lot of this is what is occurring right now. What is happening right now is for us to really get a grip of those lessons, and it requires a higher level of self-trust, a higher level of trusting in the divine, in your own divine path. And yeah, that's what it is. It's a high level of self-trust. Okay, so let's get into these energies. Okay, so the sun and the moon on Friday were both at 20 degrees Aquarius. So this is just entering into the third decan. So for me, this is kind of like on the borderline. We're at a door. We're at a door. When we hit the 20-degree mark, we're at a door. We're at a door out of the second decan into the third. Okay, so in the tarot, so basically the cards of Aquarius in the major arcana are the Fool and the Star. But the cards of the minor arcana that are being represented here are both the 6 and the 7 of Swords. The 6 and the 7 of Swords. So we see now that we are moving away from something. That's what the 6 of Swords is. We're moving away. And the 6 of Swords is not just speaking about moving away. The 6 of Swords is very specifically speaking about moving away and graduating from cycles with energies or beings that serve to disempower us and to keep us small. So this is what this is all about. And I would venture to say that because Aquarius also deals with the way that we connect with groups in accordance with our own divine purpose, that this energy also had a lot to do with the closing of doors on very specific ancestral entities. And if you've been rolling with me for a while, you know that I will often say that the contracts that we had with the families that we entered into in order to help them ascend to, right, the karmic families, or they ended up a lot of the time being karmic situations, those contracts expired with the full moon in Capricorn in 2022. And what we've been dealing with over the past year and a half is now the exposure of how those entities were rolling, okay, in order for us to become more aware of the stories, the timelines, the plots. That's what we were dealing with. Now, when the new moon entered Capricorn in January at 20 degrees, it was the start of a new cycle now away from closing the door now on those energies. Now, with the new moon in Aquarius, what it feels like is happening is it's energetically a moving away now from those entities. In other words, and this doesn't mean that, you know, like all of a sudden your life becomes perfect, but it does mean that for as long as you are able to recognize who you are, you can no longer fall prey to the pitfalls that these ancestral entities wanted to pull you into, especially using, you know, family, etc. But these are entities that have run through lines that have, you know, have been very responsible for the behaviors that have pushed people into what we call generational curses. And a generational curse is just when beings continue to repeat the same behaviors and energies over time that are designed to harm them and to harm their divinity and therefore to harm their descendants. And a lot of this was based upon these entities entering into these bloodlines in a myriad of ways, in order to lead people astray, both in conscious and unconscious ways. And what I was really being shown this weekend is, you know, a lot of these entities travel by way of the feminine energy, okay? They travel through the womb. This is where they kind of start to connect in utero a lot of the time. Not always, but a lot of the time. And the thing that you need to know about the feminine, well, the womb first and foremost is a portal, right, between realms, dimensions. So it's how we enter into the earth plane. So this is where they like to attach a lot of the time. But what you also need to know about feminine energy, not women, but feminine energy, it exists in all of us, and it is manifested physically through gender as females, right? What you need to know about that energy is it is a life giver, it gives birth, but it also is an energy that magnifies anything it's given. So you can see that in how in the womb cells divide, right? And baby becomes from one single cell becomes this whole human, right? That is how the feminine energy works on an energetic level. So you can see how these entities come in to multiply, not only in utero, but through the matrilineal line, but through matrilineal traditions. Okay, and I won't get too into that because I've talked about it a lot, and I don't want this to be too long tonight, but it feels like this new moon in Aquarius was shifting something very specific when it comes to how those ancestral entities were attaching in the womb space. It also feels like there is a grand womb clearing, sacral clearing, umbilicus clearing, and that's happening for us all on an energetic level, or it's available for all of us to partake in on an energetic level, but it's also happening on our earth planes. There's been a lot of things to do with water since the full moon in Leo, especially in my life, and I've spoken to other people about this too. This energy of water and pressure. I wrote about it also on the new moon in Aquarius on Friday. My story of what occurred for me in that, the craziness that occurred for me in that time period, and why I actually haven't been back on here on either of my channels because it was just crazy. Anyway. A lot to do with the recalibration of the waters right now. The recalibration of the waters. A lot of wounding coming up around group, how we've interacted with groups, how we've been betrayed by groups. And this isn't only energies that we've dealt with in this lifetime. These are things we've repeated in this lifetime that have their genesis in other in previous cycles from other incarnations, and we've been going through a grand clearing. In other words, this new moon in Aquarius is helping us learn how to reconnect in group dynamics without the crazy subtle power dynamics, where they're very ego based. One person is on top and then the others follow, or the way that we categorize people in a group to stay in a certain place. That was very much Age of Pisces, not even Age of Pisces, it's just something that has been occurring in the Matrix since the fall. Okay, so we are learning now how to negotiate ourselves in group dynamics, first and foremost by healing those wounds. Okay, so what is interesting about the sun and the moon at 20 degrees of Aquarius is that, like I said, it's on a doorway between the 6 and the 7 of Swords. So we're getting away. But when you enter into the 7 of Swords, this is a sneaky energy, right? 7 of Swords is either things that other beings are trying to get away with, pull the wool over your eyes about, or these are things internally that we don't want to face about ourselves. And these are often thought forms, okay? So the thought forms that connect to the waters that bring forth material reality. Now, Aquarius is the sign that we call the water bearer. It is the last air sign on the zodiac wheel, which means that it has taken the lessons of Gemini and Libra, and this is the culmination of them through Aquarius, as well as all of the other previous 10 signs. Okay, it's learned lessons. It's the 11th sign on the wheel. So as such, Aquarius has this ability to, so the Libran energy helps us to find the balance energetically within ourselves, but also with others. It's 7th house, but Aquarius also shows us how to be emotionally aware, how to, not just emotionally aware, Aquarius shows us how to practice emotional awareness with other beings, okay? In such a way where we can all be empowered. That's the evolved energy of Aquarius. And as such, it is called the water bearer because although it is an air sign, it has the ability to use that intellect to bring healing, okay? So this is one of the themes of this new moon that has just passed. It's about healing those deep group wounds. So many of us have dealt with deep wounding that has been a result of being shunned in group settings. You know, a lot of you with this karmic family energy, that is just one example, but this is the example that you've lived out in this lifetime that you've repeated several lifetimes of being shunned or betrayed within a group setting. And I know that because the betrayal, the group betrayal energy began with the fall of the previous golden age. The reason that that golden age collapsed to begin with was because of those energies. So we are clearing out a lot of that woundedness, a lot of those betrayal energies, and we're clearing it out on a cellular level, because remember, this is the recalibration of waters, because the age of Aquarius is here to help us to heal as a collective, right? So this new moon has this very this deeply healing quality, this return of hope, this return of peace. And when I say return of hope, I'm talking about it on a very deep, a deep level. So you may have felt it intermittently in your own reality, but the return that I'm speaking about is like within the core of the earth. There is a return of peace. Okay, so those are the messages I'm getting for the sun and the moon at 20 degrees. Now, we had Mercury at 7 degrees Aquarius, and this 777 energy has been following me around for weeks, and we've got, you know, Saturn also at 7 degrees Pisces. So we've got two planets, you know, expressing themselves through the 7 energy. You know, take it further, you could say Chiron in Aries is also at 16 degrees. That is a representation of the 7. Okay, now 7 speaks to me on many levels. On the one hand, it is dealing with the energies of the past year. We were in a number 7 year in 2023, so there are some themes around that too. But really, 7 speak to me of order, of divine order, of things coming back into righteous alignment. And as such, 7 is a number that is connected to Saturn and Saturnian principles. And when I say Saturnian principles, I'm talking about those evolved, ascended aspects of the planet that are here to help us return to our greatness, because that's what Saturn is ultimately here to do, irregardless as to how other beings nefariously used and exploited the shadow energies of Saturn. Okay, so we got Mercury, that's the magician, expressing itself through Aquarius at 7 degrees. That is the 5 of Wands. So Mercury is showing us where we still have to fight battles, but the battles that we're fighting are the ones within in our own realities. In other words, we're no longer engaging too much with external fights. Now the fight is against the thought forms that want to take us into places where these spells once upon a time could easily attach to us. So the Mercury energy is speaking to that. And I also know this because the 7 degree mark is a degree of it's to do with, well, astrologically, it's a Libran energy, so this speaks of the balancing of scales. So we've got that energy of order, whether you look at it through numerology or through astrology, right? But you've also got order for what reason? Well, Libra is connected to the 7th house. So we're talking about order in order that when we go out with other beings, we are not selling ourselves out, selling ourselves short, dealing with these 5 of Swords type energies where other beings are, where you or other beings, because we're all guilty of all of these behaviors, are trying to put others down to feel higher, or we accept the position of being put down so other people can feel as if they're bigger than us. All of these little power games that are very much mentally driven. you know, through gaslighting, through lying, through manipulation, you know, through gossip, slander, backbiting, spell casting, prayer witchcraft. Okay, because that's a big one. I've been feeling that one real strongly. Okay, all of these ways that beings try to control other people and keep them out of their sovereignty, the ways that we've done that to others, the ways we've allowed that to be done to self, we have to deal with those thoughts that allow for that to happen in the first place, because the external expression of that, when it occurs for us in groups, it's always going to be a reflection first of what we believe about ourselves, because when we are secure in who we don't take shit from anyone, and the reason we don't take shit from anyone is because we don't take shit from ourselves. When we see these energies, we're scrupulous in dealing with them internally, because we know how they then will have an effect on how other energies are able to enter our fields too. So the Mercury at 7 degrees in Aquarius is also speaking to us about this. It's helping us to be very, very aware of the thoughts that we are entertaining and whether those thoughts are in alignment with our truth and with the new order that is wanting to be established through us in being the keepers and the arbiters of balance, peace, and harmony. Okay? Now, Venus was in Capricorn at 21 degrees, so something ending here. The 21 degree mark is connected to the World card in the tarot. That's the closing out of a cycle, but it's also connected to Scorpio. It's a Scorpio degree. So it's a closing out of something for the rebirth of something. And because we're dealing with Capricorn, we're dealing very much with material ways of being, existing, that connect us to how we are contracted energetically on this earth plane. And Venus is the planet that is, wants us to live in beauty, wants us to live beautifully, wants us to have full access to all the resources that have been gifted us by our divine father and mother, by source, right? This is what Venus is about. So there is a wrapping up, once again, of more ways of being and material contracts that would bind us out of our ability to live beautifully. And that's happening in all manner of ways, but it's happening as we choose to surrender and connect with our ability and our right to live in joy and to live in beauty. And that's another, big theme that I was picking up on. I did a collaboration on SUBSTACK with Demi Peachel from Starfire Codes. And we both did our own New Moon and Aquarius readings, and we combined them together as a project. It's on my Substack. It's on the Starfire Code Substack also. It was on Thursday that we published that article together. And what was really interesting is she was picking up on the shadow aspects of the shadow work that's happening right now. And what I was kind of focused on was what the shadow work is there to accomplish. And that is to return us to living in states of joy, because living in joy is your birthright as a divine being. And I know for many people, when they hear that, it might sound utopian, but the only reason it sounds utopian is because of the matrix programs that have had us believing things about ourselves, who we are, and how we're here to exist that aren't true. The truth of the matter is, you and I did not come here to suffer. That is a matrix fallacy. And that is another thing through this Venus also, this Venus energy, and even the Mars in Capricorn at 27 degrees. And as Mars moves into, as Venus and Mars, I should say, move into Aquarius, this is what we're fighting for. We're fighting for a new way of being, a new way of living, and a new way of coexisting in ways that bring honor to the truth and the full expression of all of our birthrights harmoniously. So this is what all of these energetic transitions are ultimately about, right? So I was going to say something and I just lost it. Maybe it will come back. I'm sure it will come back. Okay, it will come back. So anyway, with the Venus in Capricorn at 21 degrees, something is coming to an end, and you may have felt a lot of tension as we came up to this new moon in Aquarius. A lot of tension, especially from the full moon in Leo, because we're always going to feel tension when something is coming to a close. An old way of being is coming to a close, and many of us have been challenged in that place. Like I was saying at the beginning of this video, I am no longer pushing so hard past the densities. Even though the densities are there, I'm learning how to live with them and not fall and stay in fear, because it's time for them to move, because we are not here anymore to engage in wars that we've already won. Okay, but like I said in the beginning, that requires high levels of surrender and self-trust. And the only way to bring forth these seasons of joy is to surrender to the process of them coming forth. If we're still fighting and contending and pushing past, then we're still living in survival mode. Our energy fields are in constriction. We're not open. And this is what these energies are wanting to help us to get to a place of feeling safe again in self. And another thing that I've been really picking up on is even the expression of disease and how that is exiting in different ways. And, without getting too wrapped up in this theme of disease, I will say that, just like I said before, you were not sent here to suffer. You were also not sent here to get sick and die. We weren't, okay? That has been what has occurred because we've been living out of alignment and we've been stuck in these cycles of decay. But we were not here to be stuck in cycles of decay. It's getting stuck in the cycle of decay that opens us up to disease, as well as not living in accordance with our truth, and not knowing how to really look after ourselves on all planes is what has introduced dis-ease into our reality, as well as all of the things that have purposely been made a part of our normal way of living that are ultimately designed to kill us. All of these things were designed to kill us slowly without us realizing that. So, even every time we make a decision that goes against who we are divinely, we open the door to lower world entities that are connected to these matrix systems, and some of them are arbiters, many of them are arbiters of dis-ease. This is why, like in Christianese, and I'm not a Christian, but that word sin, it means to live out of divine order, because when you live in accordance with divine order and divine truth, in accordance with who you are protected on all planes, including this one. But when you betray yourself and then you take that energy externally and begin to do things that are shisty to other beings, because really it's just a reflection of what you're doing to yourself, is a reflection of what we do to self, that we do to other beings, right? When we start, the farther away we move into that energy, the more we connect with these lower world entities that bring all manner of shit into our realities, okay? And that's how the Matrix had us contracted to different lower world entities. And that's a whole other, reading or whole other report. But there's something coming, there's something happening right now with the clearing of those energies. And if you've been rolling with me, especially since Scorpio season on either Solar Rises or Solar Speaks, you know that I have spoken about how your energy field, your biofield works like a gateway system. You are full of virtual doors and gates and ports and portals, and all of us have different access in accordance with who we are, what we came here to be. Sometimes astrology, when I do people's tarot astrology report, I can see that they are literal portals into certain energies. Those things exist within our fields, and they exist so that we can be multidimensional beings that connect with different doorways in the cosmos that help us pull in certain things that bring us into divine alignment. And because of the fuckery of the matrix, because of the frequency fuckery, because of how we got ourselves stuck in this density through our belief systems, through diet, through the way we treated self and one another. These are the things that created the prisons that have kept us locked out of the fullness of our cosmological expression. This is what happened, and in these prisons are wardens, these are the lower world entities that we contract ourselves to when we move away from our divine truth. And so I say all of that because there were a lot of lower world energies that were manning our doors, manning our virtual gates, our ports, our portals. And the way they were doing that occurs in a myriad of ways. For some of it, it's just entering the matrix for some of us, right? But then it goes farther. It's about the contracts that families try to put other people into, or like companies, corporations, all of these things we've talked about, the fuckery, all of the reasons why beings were casting spells was to literally keep our energy fields in lockdown. That's what 2020 was about. It was about putting our biofields back into lockdown because ascension was happening too rapidly. And now what it feels like has been occurring is there's been another clearing and cleansing of these entities and their ability to block our gates, our ports, our portals within our energy fields. They're being removed at this point. And the only way that they can stay in our fields at this point is if we allow them to. And we allow them to when we connect with, believe, and assign our energy to the old programs that kept us imprisoned, as opposed to connecting with our divine truth. And this is why Mercury in Aquarius at 7 degrees wants us to be very, very vigilant with our thoughts and the thought forms that still want to connect with us, that are part of these matrix programs that connect to these lower world entities, because we are free. But we're only free for as long as we are rejecting the programming. And this is where it gets hard, because while the timelines collapse, everything is looking a certain way, and that can pull us into fearful thinking and to start doing things that align with matrix logic out of fear. And this is where it's like crunch time. It's not time to do that anymore. You know how like as above, so below, the earth is like a reflection of what is happening in the spirit. But right now, because, and it's not just right now, but my guides were emphasizing it to me, especially, we are living right now in the past. You get what I'm saying? Like, how you're living right now has already passed. You're living in it as if it's your present, but it's already past. And those things you've been connecting to, those higher energies, are already in existence. And it's up to us now to pull them into our present, into our now, by no longer feeding the energy of the timelines that have us feeling like we're stuck. Okay, so I know that's a lot, right? Jupiter is still in Taurus. We've got all the planets retrograding, all the planets direct now. Jupiter is in Taurus at 8 degrees. This is the first decan of Taurus. Taurus, of course, is the Hierophant energy as well as the Empress. Jupiter is the Wheel of Fortune. We've got Jupiter speaking through this number 8, which is the energy connected with with the numerology of this year. Sorry, I got distracted because I was wrong. The 21 degree mark of Capricorn for Venus is not a degree of Scorpio, it's a degree of Sagittarius. And that's fine, because what I said still stands, because Scorpio and Sagittarius work together for our liberation. Scorpio rebirths us. Sagittarius helps to liberate us to walk that out. Okay, so a lot of Scorpio Sagittarius themes, I think I brought that up before, have been coming up recently, because a lot of the purging, the deep purging of these energies really began to accelerate during Scorpio and Sagittarius season, because in that window we were receiving a lot of galactic and angelic activations. Okay, so I just wanted to correct myself there. Jupiter at 8 degrees, so the 8, of course, is the energy of this year. 8 is a degree, is an astrological degree of Scorpio. It is. And 8 is connected to the Strength card in the tarot, right? So this 8 degree energy is connected to the 5 of Pentacles. So we're really dealing now with all of these lack narratives. We're still dealing with it, but really honing in on the 8, the Leo energy, the Scorpio energy of rebirthing ourselves out of those lack narratives that had us living in states where we were open to being devalued, where we were more open to that 5 of Swords energy. But the Jupiter is helping us to expand on a heart level through this new moon in Aquarius, okay? So we got Saturn at 7 degrees in Pisces. So Saturn is making its way through Pisces, bringing certain things into order. The 7 is, again, that is a Saturnian energy. So we're speaking about like Saturn is doubling down right now on the order, and the order of our thoughts and emotions in alignment with our, well, with the Piscean energy, for one thing, our ability to utilize the power of our connection to spirit to see past the illusions of the matrix and to break out once and for all. Pisces is connected to the 12th house, which is the house of hidden enemies. And those enemies are hidden because whenever you're about to cross the finish line on these energy cycles, it's when those invisible energies want to come in to deceive in order to keep you from crossing that finish line. So we've got a lot of that coming up right now in these themes, with the 20 degree mark being on the cusp of the 7 of Swords, and then the Pisces energy here with Saturn and Pisces at 7 degrees, which is the 12th house energy, but it's 8 of Cups also, which is showing us where we need to walk away from certain things. And what we need to walk away are from sneaky energies that want to take our minds back into old programming. And that can come through other beings trying to manipulate and gaslight and pull the wool over eyes, all of that 7 of Swords stuff. But most importantly, it has to do with those energies within self that we want to deny. Because the truth of the matter is, it only becomes easier to pick up on other people's discrepancies when you first are able to recognize it in self. When you recognize it in self and you do the work, then your heart becomes clear enough to pick that up. And I've talked about this before. Your heart works as a scanning device. And when it's bogged down by energies that are based upon self-deception in any way, we cloud that ability. Deception is one of the big blocks, big things that stop us from scanning energy proficiently. Whether it's self-deception or it's other beings lying to us, it can create a blockage. And so this Saturn in Pisces, as well as this, the sun and the moon at this degree, I feel like they're helping us in this area. Okay, so I'm not going to go into Uranus, Neptune, Pluto right now. No, Pluto is still at that 0 degree mark. So, you know, we are dealing, ever since Pluto entered with the 0 degrees Aquarius, we are dealing with the clearing of what is necessary for the newness to come forth. So that is, you know, big energy. And I want to go into now, so on February 13th, Mars moves into Aquarius at 0 degrees, and so it'll be meeting Pluto. And then Venus, and this is on Tuesday, which is ruled by Mars, and then on Friday we have Venus moving into Aquarius at the 0 degree mark, joining Pluto there. And Venus, Friday is also ruled by Venus, which is interesting. Now, what I find really interesting about this, intriguing about the energies that are coming up this week, is that, you know, a lot of the time people will say Mars and Venus are kind of like the divine masculine and divine feminine and their counterparts and all this other stuff. And yeah, to some extent, you know, I can see how that works. But for me, it's Mars and Pluto that also are our counterparts. And the reason I say that is because they are both the planets that deal with destruction, but Mars is a masculine aspect of the destruction, whereas Pluto is the feminine aspect of destruction. So Mars comes in, wham, bam, you know, burns shit down, tears shit down, and then keeps it moving. Pluto will come and take things down little by little, and as it's taking things down, it's rebuilding, right? So Mars is full on destruction, like explosive energy, and Pluto is full on, yes, it can be very, you know, like when it has to deliver a punch, it can, but Pluto is a more slow-moving arbiter of destruction. Mars is like destruction by fire, and Pluto is destruction by water in order for something new to come forth. Okay, so with Mars and Pluto meeting on Tuesday at the 0 degree point of Aquarius, well, this is a portal, you know, that's opened, that's opening or expanding ever more. Mars is adding that fire to it. So what I feel is happening now is that energy of destruction is picking up, and now Mars is coming in to give it a bit of an extra oomph. That means those things that are not allowed to stand anymore, are not allowed to go forward into our new cycles on a personal and a collective level. It's time for that shit to come down. Okay, and then Venus is coming in the caboose on Friday, entering at the 0 degrees, while Mars will be at 2 degrees Aquarius by the time Venus enters Aquarius on Friday, but Pluto will still be at 0. So Venus and Pluto will be meeting up for, you know, a kiss, a snog, right? And Mars would have just snogged Pluto and kept it moving. And then they're just going to have a bit of a threesome, because the 2 degree mark is still, like, you know, still pretty close, you know, like 3 to 4 degrees, it's still a conjunction, yeah? So, like Venus, Mars, and Pluto are having this threesome on Friday. And what is the theme of the threesome? Well, it's all about the destruction that must come forth in order to birth beauty. And it's to birth the beauty that is necessary to be regifted back to us. But it's also the beauty that is necessary for us to be able to reconnect with joy, which needs to be the foundation upon which we build ourselves in this new age. And this is important, okay? The reason why it's so important for us to live in joy. And as I go into that, I'm going to mention that this weekend, we have the start of the Chinese New Year. And this is the year of the dragon. And the dragon energy is connected to the grid lines, the mother lines, the ley lines of the earth. Okay, and so the dragon energy works through the Capricorn Cancer axis specifically. Now, back to joy. Cancer energy is over your emotions, okay? Cancer, Leo, and Virgo, that second quarter of the zodiac wheel is all about emotional calibration. And what are we dealing with right now? The recalibration of the waters, right? So learning how to recalibrate our emotional bodies, our sacral energies, our womb energies, womb clearing. All of this is interconnected with what is going on right now. And why is this important? Because when we connect with joy, that's what we feed the ley lines. That's what we feed the Earth's grids. We are energetic beings, electromagnetic beings that are connected to the electromagnetic forces that allow for our Earth to exist. And this is why the Matrix fucked with us energetically and kept us in lower states in order to have us feeding the grids, the fear, guilt, and the shame, or the trauma trifecta, as I like to call it. Kept us in that trauma trifecta in order to feed the grids that energy, in order to keep us locked into those lower vibrations. Okay, so this returning to joy is so important, not because, oh, we're utopian and, oh, you know, I just want to be happy and all this other stuff, which is good, you know, I'm not knocking that either. But it's important because literally when we are living in accordance with who we are and we are accessing joy states, we are literally feeding the Earth's grid lines, that energy, the grid system that supports the Earth. And when we are in harmony with self and we are therefore living in joyous states, we are bringing the grids of the Earth into harmonious union and balance too. And that benefits not only us, it benefits all of nature and the Earth herself. So you see this whole idea of us connecting and living in states of joy and love and bliss and enlightenment and doing it collectively and together is so much bigger and greater than our own personal happiness. This is how we sustain this Earth that is a gift to us and all of her resources. Yes? 1 second. So, this new moon in Aquarius is all about the return to joy. And then this week, we got Venus, Mars, and Pluto at the 0 degree Aquarius, opening that door wider. Opening that door wider, not only for us to come through, but opening the door wider so we can push out the crap. Remember, we're clearing. We're clearing through these full moons, especially. You know, we're clearing out these nucleus, these seed point energies that birthed the cycles to begin with. So, yeah. Okay, I think that's it. I think that's where I'm going to end it. Oh, another interesting thing. When Mars enters, when Mars enters into Aquarius at the 0 degree mark on Friday, the moon will be entering Aries. Okay, so the moon will also be, at some point, conjuncting Chiron, while Mars is at the 0 degree mark of Aquarius. So for many, especially those of you with very heavy cardinal and Aries energy, this might be a week for intense dealing with shadows around the expression of your power. You know, that Aries energy is said to be a bit of a hothead, but I like to joke with my Aries clients because the reason that Aries is like that is because, energetically speaking, Aries is here to help us reestablish the masculine principle of our godhood. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit, you know, when somebody pushes it the wrong way, it's going to be mad, you know. But yeah, so this is another theme that's going to be coming up on Tuesday. You know, where are we fighting? Fighting to be empowered when our power already belongs to us? And how can we assert ourselves confidently And as a good friend of mine says, heartically. That's her expression, heartically. How can we do that? In order that we're no longer engaging in battles that we don't need to engage in, because we're not in war over things that belong to us, right? So this is what I have for you. I hope that this Ascension report was helpful and insightful. Before I go, I forgot to tell you at the beginning, there are since my last video, I have 3 new offerings on my Ko-Fi shop. I have a solar plexus recovery decree. I have uploaded a manual that I wrote to aid you in spiritual warfare, and I also now have on my Ko-Fi shop the full 2024 Ascension report, Tarot Astrology Ascension report. It's up there. It's like I think it's like a 34, 35 page document. So all of those are up there now. The link to my Ko-Fi shop will be in the description box below. For all information on how to work with me, if you'd like to get your personal tarot astrology or book me for one-to-one mentorship, that will always be, as well as my smaller services like Ask the Oracle, and if you need ritual advice, etc. That's always going to be on my website, solara.info. If you'd like to join me over on Substack, that information will be below also. I believe it's substack.com/dailyalkhemy with a K. Yeah. And my Ko-Fi is ko-fi.com/Solara. Yes, so that's all I have for you. Thank you for your patience with me in this time as I clear these densities in my own reality, and I look after myself and my children in order that I can come back on here and give to the collective also in balanced ways. So I thank you for your patience. I thank you for your support. Yes, I will see you guys again soon. Until next time, be well.